Well, hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. I'm going to be your guide today. Basically, I'm the guy here to explain absolutely everything about the wild, mind-bending world of football. And trust me, the staggering facts we pulled from the source material are going to completely change how you look at the beautiful game. Let's get into it. Here is a quick look at our agenda for today. We'll start with the global phenomenon, move on to some surprising origins and names, check out unbelievable match records, dive into mind-blowing player stats, and finally wrap things up with some truly bizarre football quirks. All right, Section 1, the global phenomenon. Let's just jump right in and look at the sheer, unimaginable scale of this sport. 3.572 billion. Yeah, you heard that right. That is the estimated number of people who watched the 2018 World Cup held in Russia. Just take a second to let that sink in. We are talking about nearly half of the entire human population tuning in to watch a single sports tournament. I mean, that kind of footprint is just absolutely unparalleled in modern history. But, it's not just about watching, right? It's about actually playing the game. According to FIFA data, an estimated 240 million people across 210 registered countries play football regularly. To put that into perspective, that means roughly 4% of everyone on Earth is out there on a pitch right now, kicking a ball around.
And man, those 90 minutes, they are incredibly physically demanding. On average, a footballer covers about 7 miles per game. Compare that to a tennis player who runs maybe 3 miles, or a basketball player at around 2.5 miles. It really puts the immense stamina required into perspective, especially when you remember they only get a short 15-minute break at halftime.
Moving on to Section 2, surprising origins and names. Let's rewind the clock and see how this physically demanding modern juggernaut traces back to some really deep ancient roots. So while England definitely shaped the modern rules and founded the oldest existing club, Sheffield FC, back in 1857, the sport's true origins actually lie in China. We're talking over 2 millennia ago, around 476 BC, with a game called Cuju. Oh, and fun fact for you, that very first international match in 1872, yeah, it actually ended in a 0-0 draw between England and Scotland. Go figure. Now here's a quick question for all you trivia buffs out there. Who originally came up with the word soccer instead of football? I mean, it's a debate that literally rages on the internet every single day. Well, the truth is, you can actually blame England for the whole modern confusion over the name. England invented the word soccer, but actually phased it out over 35 years ago. Today, America and Canada are pretty much the only 2 countries that still use it. So next time you find yourself in that debate, you've got the historical ammunition right here. All right, Section 3, unbelievable match records. Let's pivot straight to the pitch and look at some in-game records that just completely defy logic. Okay, you might hear this scoreline and think it's a typo, but I promise you it is 100% real. Back in October 2002, a team in Madagascar intentionally scored 149 own goals. Why? They were protesting an unfair refereeing decision from a previous match. The game ended 149-0, cementing it as the absolute highest scoring official match in the sport's long history. Imagine just blinking and your team is already down by a goal. 2.8 seconds. That is the staggeringly short amount of time it took Ricardo Oliveira to score the fastest goal in football history back in December 1998. Seriously, it takes longer to say, "We've just had the kickoff," than it took for the ball to literally hit the back of the net. And here's something crazy to think about. Despite 210 countries playing the sport, only 8 nations have ever managed to win the World Cup since the tournament started in 1930. The field is incredibly exclusive, completely dominated by Europe and South America. And of course, Brazil is sitting comfortably at the very top with 5 historic victories. Moving right along to Section 4, mind-blowing player stats. We've seen the team records, so now let's dig into some of the most staggering individual player achievements. We all know scoring in the opening seconds or those tense closing minutes is notoriously tough. But these 2 legends, Cristiano Ronaldo and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, they have managed to score in literally every single minute of a 90-minute game. Across their entire careers, they've found the back of the net in the first minute, the 90th minute, and quite literally every single minute in between. It's like a giant puzzle they just managed to complete. Now, earlier we talked about how Brazil is the most successful World Cup nation, right? Well, it turns out they actually have a major kryptonite. Norway. Norway is the only team Brazil has played but never managed to defeat. In their 4 encounters, Norway won twice and they drew twice. It's just this fascinating statistical anomaly against arguably the greatest footballing nation on earth. Talk about losing your cool. In a 2011 Argentinian fifth-tier match between two rival teams, a referee handed out an absolute record 36 red cards. Yeah, 36. After this massive brawl broke out in the second half, the ref just dismissed every single player on the pitch, plus all the substitutes and even the coaches. I mean, talk about clearing the room. And that brings us to Section 5, Bizarre Football Quirks. For this final section, we're going to step off the pitch and examine the quirky, slightly strange off-field side of football that you definitely won't see on the weekly highlight reels. You know, you might think top brands manufacture their state-of-the-art balls in these huge, futuristic tech hubs, but actually, roughly 2/3 of the world's footballs come from Pakistan. In fact, a massive 40% of the entire global supply comes from just one single city, Sialkot. It's kind of mind-blowing to think that this one small city essentially supplies the most popular sport on the entire planet. And talk about a universal impact. The legacy of these 5 footballing figures is literally immortalized in space. Asteroids orbiting our sun officially bear the names of legends like Arsene Wenger, Johan Cruyff, Joseph Beacon, Ferenc Puskas, and Michael Ballack. So, if you ever thought the love for football was just global, well, it's actually astronomical. Whenever you hear about those multi-million-dollar transfers dominating the news today, you know, like a player going for nearly £200 million, I want you to think about superstar player Angel Di Maria. Early in his career back in Argentina, he was literally traded between 2 clubs for a physical bag of 35 footballs. Yep, 35 footballs for a future global superstar. This next one seems incredibly obvious to us now, but back in the day, teams used to wear identical shirts, and that included the goalkeepers. It wasn't until 1909 that an official mandate finally required goalies to wear a different color. Why? Well, simply because things got way too confusing during corner kicks, and referees literally couldn't figure out who was actually allowed to use their hands in a crowded penalty box. So, as the guy who gets to explain everything about this video to you, I have to say, looking at all these unbelievable statistics just leaves me in absolute awe. We have covered centuries of history in this explainer, from ancient China all the way up to literal asteroids in space. But it really leaves us wondering, doesn't it? With a sport that is this unpredictable and this beloved around the world, what impossible football record is going to be written into the history books tomorrow? Thanks so much for hanging out and learning with me, and I'll catch you in the next one.